Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to Tailor-Made Cards for You. Today I wanted to share with you a card that I created using a technique I want to call reversed masking. Now this technique works really well with small background stamps. The stamps that I'm sharing with you today are from Finnabair, and I want to say they measure about 2 by 2. They're clear stamps and they're acrylic, so they are very flexible and they work great when you are creating some background interest. I'm also going to be working with a stamp set from KaiserCraft that's called Film Edges, and this stamp set is quickly becoming one of my favorites. So to begin, I'm going to be adding some acrylic paint. Now this is the Finnabair paint called Alchemy, and it's the Vintage Rose. This has a metallic look on the background, and when it's dry you can stamp really nicely on it. The design that I'm going for today is more of a grunge effect, so I'm going to be spreading my paint just all over the place just to create some interest. I'm not necessarily looking to cover the background completely. I just want to create some designs and some color for the background. You'll see what I mean as we get more deeper into the card. So once I added some of the paint using my paintbrush, I did get my plastic card out to just move some of the paint around. I like the way that the edge of the card creates some harsh edges on the background, and it really creates for a little bit of interest. It moves the paint really easily, and it relieves some different designs. I don't really know how to explain it, but as I'm moving the card, you can see that it doesn't completely cover the background, and that's really what I was looking for. I like the way that it pulls the paint out and leaves some thinner lines. So when you're creating backgrounds, you don't necessarily have to have a smooth effect. You just want to continue to move your paint till you get the desired look. Alright, so once my paint was dry, I did add some Tim Holtz tissue paper. This tissue paper is translucent, and it's great when you're creating a background. You can easily stamp over it and the paint still shows through it, which is one of the reasons I really like using it. Tissue tape is a bit different than washi tape. The tissue tape, like I said, is translucent and you can see through it, and it really is great to actually mold into your background. You can still see the paint come through, and it doesn't take over your design. Whereas some of the washi tape is very vibrant and the images are very distinct. The washi tape isn't translucent, so it can tend to take over your project a little bit more than the tissue tape does. And that's one of the reasons that I love working with the tissue tape. Also, the tissue tape is easy to paint over as well as stamp over, and again, it just adds to the background rather than taking over the design. So once the paint was dry, I did get one of my distressed crayons out, and this color is called Pick Raspberry. It worked really great against the Vintage Rose acrylic paint, and it gave a nice highlight. This is basically the same process that you would do as if you were stamping into a stencil. But what I find with stencils is typically those are plastic, and the plastic is raised just a little bit too high. So when I go to stamp my image, I don't always get a crisp image. By using a piece of thin paper, it lays flat on my cardstock. So when I go to stamp my image, I can typically get a pretty crisp image. Now the reason that I'm calling it reverse masking is typically when I'm masking something, I'm masking an image. But what I'm doing here is I'm using the negative part of my mask. So that way I can have a stamped image on my cardstock to mimic what my cutout would be. Now you can probably do this with all sorts of shapes. I can imagine you can take a punch for a star, and you can use this technique, or any shape that's small enough where you can stamp right into it. I used a heart because a heart is really easy to actually cut out. You just fold your paper in half and then you just cut a half heart, and that creates a really easy background. And since it is almost Valentine's Day, I thought a heart background would be really cute. So once I had my stamped images, I wanted to create a little bit more interest on my background, and this is where I brought out those film strip stamps. Now these film strip stamps are awesome. I really like them, and I actually just picked them up on a whim, and I haven't used them. I've had them for, gosh, a couple of months, and I'm really trying to use the supplies that I have on hand. So when I saw these, I thought, oh, these would be great for a background. And boy, was I right, because I love them. So you're probably going to be seeing these make an appearance in several of my future projects, because I really like them, and I'm keeping them right on my desk so I don't forget about them. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn on some music, and then I'll be back at the end of the video to finish up the card. Now, I realize for some of you this background might be a little bit too busy, but I really enjoy creating grungy backgrounds, and that's why I kept going. But for your card, you could easily use this reverse masking technique and then stop after that. You could add your sentiment and then put it on some cardstock, and it would be a perfectly beautiful card. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is when you are using this acrylic paint, you've probably noticed that I'm drawing after each stamp, and that's because if you don't use your heating tool or let it set, the ink will smudge. So after I stamped my sentiment, I did bring out my heating tool just so I could set that black ink. And then I, once the card was completely dried, I just went ahead and used my distressing tool to edge the sides of my cards, and I added some black soot distress crayon, and I mounted it onto some cardstock. So as always, I will leave a list of all the products that I've used to create this card, along with the links to the stores. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this technique. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you head out. And as always, I really appreciate you stopping by and supporting my channel. All right, everyone, we'll see you again next time.